Welcome to a day on the Sound. It's mid-November, but we're getting out here. It's gonna almost hit 60 today. It's a really nice opportunity to fish this late in the season on a kayak. So I'm pretty excited. We're gonna mainly focus on underwater. I'm gonna fish a little bit. If I take one fish, I'll be happy. I'll also be happy just to get some underwater. Now, I want to test some things out. I know one of you guys made a comment about how I should try to show the difference between a jig and a rig underwater. So I'm going to test that out, see how it goes. It could be a little difficult, but hey, you never know until you try something. So, and yeah, it should be a good day. And fish still probably 40 to 50 feet. I know the fish are probably out of the shallows by now, so we're gonna have to fish that deeper spot, and hopefully they're there. Hopefully they haven't moved out of even that kind of water. So, alright, we'll find out. Catch back in. Alright, so here we go. I'm gonna get right into the underwater, and this episode's actually gonna be pretty much all underwater because I ended up only catching shorts. And yeah, there's plenty of videos out there of, you know, people just catching blackfish, so I'm just gonna stick to the underwater on this one. Besides, we got a lot of footage to get through, so I started out with the rig setup, and I actually did a double hook. We got a lower hook and a higher hook. The low hook's probably 10 or 12 inches off the bottom, and the higher hook's maybe 24 inches, and the camera's maybe 36 inches, give or take. And you can see right away, I've already started fishing, and I've caught a couple shorts, so these fish are pretty much fired up right now. They're hitting it pretty quick, but you know, there are some slight variations of what's going on that we'll take a look at. So this is a patch of rocks in about 40 to 45 feet of water, and it's a pretty silty bottom, as you're going to see. I'm not too sure what the white stuff is on the rocks, but there's a lot of it. The tide was low. It was an ebb tide, and then it switched over, and then when it started flooding, the current picked up, but that's when I lost some sunlight too, and it just got a little dark. So this is really only going to be during the ebb part of the tide, and then at slack. So even though the fish were biting pretty hard right at first when I put this down, you can tell now they've kind of, you know, calmed down a bit and kind of taken their time now looking at the bait. I mean, they'll hit it here and there, but they're not really hitting it furiously as soon as it hits the bottom. This fish is going to take the bottom and swim away with it. you're going to see these two fish try to swim away with it. The second one's decent size. And I think that's what's nice sometimes about the rig is when you have a little bit of line, it gives them a little bit of slack, so they start swimming away with no resistance. And then once they hit that resistance, then that's when you would set the hook. So if you look closely at the bottom right there, you'll see that oyster toad actually take the bait, and I think he takes it back under his little burrow in the rock. And I think I get a little snagged here, but I think he eventually lets go. It was very interesting that those fish just kind of looked at the bait, and even this one, just look at the bait, and then give up on it. I don't know, maybe it's just doesn't look natural enough for them. See that? They get spooked easily, too. So you can see, for some reason, these fish are just not turned on as they were before, and I'm trying to keep it balanced. I'm putting one crab with a shell on, one without. I'm putting the bait in the rocks. I'm putting it right on the side of the rocks. Another thing to mention is that I only used green crabs on this trip, so all of these are green crabs. It would be interesting though to see if maybe some rock crabs, the white leggers or Asian crabs would have gotten some of the bigger fish maybe to come out. I don't know, but didn't see a whole lot of big size fish on this trip compared to the last trip. It's interesting though, because now you're gonna start seeing these fish start becoming a little more aggressive. Here's a good take right there, and then on these next couple, these fish are just hitting it as soon as it gets to the bottom. And now it's back to just look at the bait from all different angles. I don't know what it is that, just triggers these fish to go on and off, but something clearly does. You're going to see a nice big one rush in there, but then swim away. So, I don't know what he saw that he didn't like. I do think a lot of the silt being stirred up on the bottom helps bring these fish in close and get a little bit more aggressive. So that is something I've noticed. I also think that they do like the bottom crab a little better. That one always seems to get eaten first. And this is true for porgy fishing too, I find. So, yeah, something about the bait, like especially a crab, being really close to the bottom. So I slowed it down right here because there's a striper actually that comes by, checks out the crab there for a sec. Yeah, a little schooly guy. But he's not alone because there's another striper right there. Takes a little look. So as you can see, I'm getting a lot of bites here with the rig setup. I'm catching a couple fish, and it's definitely drawing the fish in. There's a lot of fish that are, interested in this setup. I do think that the bottom crab is always getting more attention. So, if I were to set up a conventional style rig, I definitely would have, if I was doing single hook, I would definitely have my hook as close to the bottom as possible. I think they can see it beyond all those silk clouds. As you see, the silk clouds clearly get swept by the current pretty quickly. So, they're looking for something on the bottom. It's not to say that they won't hit a crab that's 12 to 24 inches off the bottom. They certainly will. But it just seems that they hit the one on the ground first, and more often. Alright, so before we switch over to the jig part, figured give your eyes a break and just show you that I actually tie the FG knot now while I'm in the kayak. I know it took me some time to get good at it and do it fast, and this is by no means a record speed, but I'm trying to put in perspective that, within 3 minutes, you can retie, and really you're not going to lose, that much time. If you do maybe the crazy Alberto or a uni to uni type knot, which I used to do, maybe you do it in like 2 minutes, but just showing you if you practice something and you get good at it, it's definitely worth it because as you'll see later, the FG knot really is the strongest knot. I mean, it's been tested. It's pretty much proven that with 20-pound braid and 30-pound leader, you're gonna break at around like 30 pounds. The 20-pound braid actually breaks higher than 20 pounds. But anyways, yeah, this is I think worth it, and you're gonna see in the next clip, kind of just like a little bit of a blooper reel of me trying to unsnag my jig when I get caught on the bottom. So I'm gonna spare you the whole thing, but this went on for another couple of minutes and I couldn't get it free, and eventually it actually snapped at the braid. Alright, so here we go with the jig now. Important to remember that my buddy here has been fishing the whole time, so he's kept the bite going. So it's not like right after I used the conventional rig setup that the bite died and I had to, build it back up again. This bite's been pretty consistent the whole time. Just, been getting shorts pretty much the whole time. Not lock and load type fishing, but pretty consistent. So here you go. You're gonna see the jig though, I think has better results in general, where these fish really just kind of congregate around the jig and they kind of try to fight each other for it. You can just see how pretty much as soon as it gets down there that they're trying to run it into the ground. I'm almost 90% certain that's a porgy right there, and I'm pretty shocked that he's still around. I guess there's always some laggers. I think with the jig too, it seems like sometimes these bigger ones, these bigger tautog get in there and try to get it a little bit more than before. They were just kind of looking from a distance. I think in this clip it's showing that the jig is better because you just see these fish like crowding around it, and they're stealing the bait even, and all that's left is a tiny piece of maybe a knuckle of a crab there, but they're still going after it. I don't know if it's maybe the jig itself that maybe the jig head itself actually does look like a crab shell body or something, and they see a piece of the meat nearby and they just keep trying to get it off. This fish is actually gonna hook himself and not really freak out all that much. So yeah, I don't even really know that he's stuck on there. You see him thrashing his head, trying to get out. So another thing to think about too is that this jig is actually pretty heavy because it has to weigh down the camera itself. So this is like I think it's like a 2.5, maybe even a 3 ounce jig. And usually I wouldn't be fishing that heavy with this jig. So that's already, a disadvantage to the jig. Um, but even so that it's 2.5, 3 ounces, these fish are still picking it up, and as it comes back down, I think it's important when it comes back down that it comes back down slowly, and yeah, for whatever reason they really like that. They really like when it comes back down to them. This is yet again another example of how these fish are definitely interested in the jig itself, I think, because I mean there's the smallest amount of crab on that hook right now, but they don't care. They're just still trying to get that smallest little piece off. So if you take a look to the right of the screen, you'll see what appears to be a winter flounder. Pretty sure it's a winter flounder by the more round shape. And yeah, it's pretty cool. I don't think I've ever seen these guys on the underwater before. He's definitely pretty interested in all this commotion. Uh, yeah, and just as lucky as I am to get him in the shot, I get a piece of seaweed there, right in front of him. But you can still see that he's there. Alright, so this last spot is just a couple hundred yards away. Bigger boulders, but more of the same, more shorts. And I was losing light, so the underwater at this point on was pretty dark, so just gonna skip it. But yeah, that pretty much wraps it up. You guys let me know what you think when you see the rig versus the jig. And yeah, let me know if this is going to change how you tie either one, or if you have other ideas on different setups that I could try and get underwater footage from. Alright guys, that's going to do it. I think we did pretty good with the underwater, but don't think I got, you know, too much stuff. It was a little deep there towards the end, and the lighting probably wasn't great, but I'll check the footage and see what we got. Overall, it's a decent day. A lot of shorts, no keepers, still really fun. And yeah, stay tuned, we'll see what happens. Alright.